Hello and welcome to the AfterParty, conversation with SpyParty players. Today I'm joined by two people, KCM and KrazyCaley.
Hello, Sharper.
Hello.
Now this is actually getting into, I guess, a bit of a different structure. Today we actually have a specific topic to talk about. I believe it was something that happened to KrazyCaley or Kaylee, it was something that you posted a thread about in the forums.
Yeah, just for context, I'll go ahead and tell the story. So recently, a player came to me that I had played on my stream, and this player wanted to explain to me that while they were playing against me, they had stream cheating. That is to say, while I was streaming, they had my stream open and they were watching what I was doing. And obviously, in Spy Party, that's a huge advantage, especially if you are the sniper, because you know who the spy is as soon as you look at the opponent's screen, and that's pretty devastating. So this ordinarily wouldn't alarm me too much, especially because the player came to me, and they told me, that I didn't like discover some horrible,
Some
oh, this person
conspiracy.
cheated. Now I need to confront them. Yeah, they came to me and they were like, I feel bad about it. I'm like, okay. So ordinarily this wouldn't concern me too bad, but it's the third time this has happened to me. Two other players have done basically the same thing. One of them under basically the exact same circumstances. They played me, and then later they came to me and said they had done it. And then another one under slightly different circumstances, but they still came to me and said they had done it. Um, so I made a post thinking about, well, Spy Party is pretty renowned for having a really good community, and if I'm getting basically serially now a bunch of people stream cheating against me in a really good community, and these are people who all three of them are people that I think are cool and members of the community and things like that. What's going to happen later on when we have people who you know bought the game on Steam or whatever and are used to playing COD or
Yeah, have
League of
more
Legends or
animosity.
something. Yeah, exactly. Like, what's going to happen? Is cheating going to be some kind of like epidemic problem in Spy Party, and what can we do about it? And what can we as streamers do about it? Um, and yeah, just thoughts along those nature and that nature, I should say. And I know I think there's not really much to be done about it in terms of streaming. So for me as a streamer, I can choose to not play someone. I can just choose to like accept it as a risk. That's kind of what I do. I just accept as a risk that when I stream, people might be watching me. It's possible to stream cheat against me, but it's not that big a deal. If for some reason I were to want to stream my participation in some really important event or whatever, where money was on the line or what have you, then you can put on a stream delay of a few minutes. 5 to 10 minute stream delay pretty effectively kills any chance of stream cheating in Spy Party. And while
Right.
that cuts down on the interactivity a little bit, it basically solves the problem. But in the meantime, unless I'm doing something like that, I'm just, if people want to cheat against me in like, just fun casual games, then that's kind of sad. But I don't really care that much to like want to, I guess, deflate my streaming experience by putting a delay on it or something like that.
Right. I had a question. I'm not sure if this is like making too much of a generalization, but did you know how many games these people had had? Like, were they people who'd been playing for a long time? Were they like newer players?
Well, I don't want to give out too much information along those lines because it's important to me that I don't want to tell basically who these people are because they're
Right.
people that I think are cool and I don't want to ruin them too much. But they're all intermediate players. They're not there's It's no one who's like at the top of the leaderboard. Drawn did not cheat against me and then say weep wop. It wasn't anything like that. It was
Beep bop.
yeah, that's what he
No.
would say if he stream cheated. Oh, okay, let's stream cheated against you. Boo, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's what John would say.
Yeah.
But no, it was intermediate players. People in the I would say 200 to 3,000 range of games.
Okay, that's interesting. The reason I was asking, not to make any like generalizations over
Yeah, yeah,
these people, I'm sure they're all fine people, but that
they are.
I thought it might have connected into the issue of the difficulties some people have in learning, and very in response to this posted a very interesting article about uh, I think it was learned helplessness, like when people feel
Yes.
they're struggling to deal with the situation because their opponent is just so much more skilled than them. They just resort to either randomness or cheating because they feel helpless in that situation. And so I thought maybe it
Yeah,
might be something where like these are opponents who they just feel so out of their league that they're
Well, I think
uh,
his
yeah.
connection to the learned helplessness was really
for the
more on the
stream.
side of the
Yeah,
victim. Yeah,
yeah,
the
yeah.
person who is being targeted by people cheating, their strategies, no matter how hard they try, are failing constantly,
Oh,
and they just feel that nothing they do is going to be effective. If somebody, let's say somebody comes up with a new strategy or some new, trick and they just want to test it out and they immediately encounter like 3 or 4 cheaters in a row, they're going to just assume that it doesn't work. And that can kill a strategy. That's what he says. At worst, it can kill a strategy entirely.
Yeah,
And
it corrupts the game, kind of. Yeah.
right. Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
I misread that as thinking, oh, maybe this is like why these people are doing this. But no, that
But
actually
you
that
can
sounds much
mean,
worse.
totally you can think that like
that's part of
that's
it
a
too.
reason why maybe they did it as well. Although yeah, he meant it for that, but I can see how you could make that error because like that's a totally plausible reason why people might feel like if you're fairly new and you're playing against someone who's really experienced. I mean, you're going to lose a lot of games, like a
Yeah.
lot of games. So yeah, it can become tempting. I would imagine.
I mean, I have to imagine that in any game or sport or activity that cheating is not the initial goal. The initial goal is to be able to, play the game and win first. And then when you find you're unable to do that, that's when you start cheating, right? Nobody like jumps into a game and immediately cheats.
Hmm.
I wouldn't think, right?
I hope not. But yeah, that would make sense. I mean, if you can win legit, why not win legit? That would be the valid question.
But
Hmm.
particularly because you're kind of not playing the game at the point when you're cheating. So it does in this instance definitely feel like it's not you're just not able to play the game if you're resorting to cheating. And that's sort of one of the things I was interested in with this discussion is trying to understand what the motivations might be because it really does just sort of make the game boring for you if you were to resort to this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most interesting thing you could have as while you were stream cheating would be as a spy, as a spy trying to stream cheat the sniper from 20 seconds ago, and figuring out. I mean, there's a little bit of fun in there, I guess, but I mean, as sniper, it's just completely like dull, right? I mean, as soon as you see their screen, presumably, you can just like take a shot if you want. Um,
Yeah.
but I think the justification that, well, not justification, but the reason that these three people gave me was all the same, actually. And which was kind of interesting. It's kind of a product, believe it or not, of SpyParty having a good community. Um, each of them reported that, in the game, there's this like close knit community of people, right? Um, which includes the developer, which includes a lot of the top players, which includes people who make content for the game, like you, like Taboshi, and so on and so forth. And this is a very close knit group of people, and everyone knows each other, and everyone hangs out, everyone's super cool, and it's a community, and they feel kind of like they all felt like they wouldn't necessarily be accepted into the community or take it seriously or some or thoughts along those lines, um, if they just lost over and over and over and over again. So like obviously if you play against the great KrazyCaley who's so good at SpyParty, no, and like you win a bunch of games, you might be taking it seriously. Um, and hopefully I got across to these people that that's not really what makes a community member in SpyParty. I mean, it's great that that's the reason. I mean, obviously, it's not great that you stream cheat, but it's kind of cool that that's the reason that this is such a cool community and you want to be a part of it so bad that you're willing to like stream cheat people to get respect or whatever. But like that's just not how things work. I mean, there are tons of people in the community who don't have 10,000 wins, who are really cool members of the community and do a lot of really awesome things and are like right there at the core of the community.
Yeah,
And contrary-wise, there are a bunch of people who have a bunch of wins who aren't.
exactly. Yeah, there are some people with, really high win rates who are not either not well respected or I would say rather like not well known members of the community or just not very vocal.
Yeah.
Um, like
Or
Sawchuck
maybe just
was
don't
sitting
want
at the
to
number one
participate.
spot. I'm sorry?
Or maybe just like don't feel like they want to participate in the community.
Right, yeah. I mean, like you have Sawchuck who was sitting at the number one spot for like the longest time, and had just vanished. Like he wasn't really a member of the community, and yet he had the biggest numbers there were. And then you have players like Taboshi who almost never plays the game, and when he does, he's not quite playing it at the level of a lot of players that are active members, and yet Tobo is a huge member of the community. There's like another new player, Toby. I've never even seen this guy online.
Toby the waiter. Yeah.
Yeah. Just his name is Toby. No, it's not Toby the waiter. It's Toby and then.
Toby and then three
Toby
something. Okay, yeah. Those are two different players.
And
You're right.
I've never, this guy jumped to my mind immediately. I've never seen him online once. He's not on the leaderboard, so he has like under 900 games played, and yet I've read like dozens of this guy's posts. I know who he is, and I can talk to him. So you have two. There's two ways to get into the community, but the best and easiest way to be known is just to be vocal and talk to people and hang out.
Yeah, Toby 387. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's it's certainly something I think that I'm glad this issue came up, because I think that's an important thing for us to understand. Like both that feeling alienated from a community or feeling uncomfortable about entering a community is something that people face, and that it's a challenge for us to try and make them feel comfortable. But then one of the other interesting things that I think came up was that there is like a culture of caring about being good at the game, and so I'm like not sure what it is that would help for us to alleviate this like concern from people about needing to be good enough to be accepted. But it does feel like something that perhaps we need to think about, of like making people feel comfortable that you won't be rejected from the community if you aren't good or if you don't think you're good at the game.
I was kind of surprised to hear that was a problem, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't think like people were stressing about that. Like when I started playing, I figured I was told, and like I experienced that you're going to lose just a crap ton of games. Like that's just the way of SpyParty. Like you're going to lose a lot. So I guess it wasn't that big a deal for me. But you're right. I mean, I can see how if you have a bunch of peers who are at the same experience level. Like I didn't really know anyone when I started playing SpyParty. I guess like I just played. I wasn't one of these people who came in with a friend or whatever. I just wanted to play SpyParty, and that's what I did. And I lost a ton of games when I was newish, and I guess I didn't really care that much. But my experience certainly isn't representative. I don't think.
I guess I don't know. For me, it's like the opposite, because I have a really strong desire to be, or it's more than a desire. It's like a drive to always be better in this game. And it's a really personal thing. It's not so much that I need other people to know that I'm good. It's just I need to know that I'm good. And that's kind of the opposite of what somebody who would cheat would do. Is somebody who's cheating knows they're not good. That's why they're cheating, and they get some sort of rise out of other people thinking that they're better at the game than they are. It's really hard for me to look at from that mindset, because I'm crap in so many games, and I happen to be okay in one game pretty much just because I've put in a buttload of time. And that for me is its own reward. It's really cheesy, but I don't need somebody to tell me that I'm good at the game. I need to feel it for myself.
Right.
And I wouldn't get that from cheating.
No, but I guess that's sort of what we've learned, is that this is a problem that people are facing, that they see this as a way to gain acceptance, and it was something we hadn't thought of.
Right. I mean, I guess there are a few ways to deal with that problem, right? So one of them is, to like be deterrent about it. Like, if you're a cheater, then you're not welcome in the community because, get out of here, you cheater. And I think that has its advantages, to be sure, but I think that I like the trust thing better. I like to, impress upon people that, this isn't every other video game community. And I guess it's like you're kind of, in some cases, preaching to the choir, because the people who are cheating, apparently, are people who are already impressed with, like, the quality of the community. But, I don't know. I'm hopeful that it's not going to be a huge problem, and that, like, very simple steps that we can take to prevent stream cheating will work. I mean, so far we haven't had a lot of competitive events. I've played in like maybe 2 or 3 things where like I was like, maybe I should put a a delay on it. But I was like playing against people that I would like. It would be hilarious if like those people stream cheated against me. Like, like Tron is not going to stream cheat against me. Like KCM is not going to stream cheat. Bacon is not going to stream cheat. You know, all these people are capable of beating me quite well enough on them on their own, you know, merits. So I don't know. When I do get into like competitive play, I tend to play against people who like I trust like so much because I've been around them so long in this community that I don't think it's going to be a problem. But is it going to be a huge problem in the future? I don't know. I just worry about when we get those big numbers that, you know, Checker's hoping for when he goes on Steam or whatever. That's the time that I start to get concerned, I think.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry,
go
Casey,
on.
you go.
No, you go first.
I was just going to say that I think for that reason, this intermediate period between it being a tiny community and it being a large community is important for us to think about the way we talk to new players and sort of espouse what our community values are. I think perhaps something like maybe trying to get more people starting out to participate in the forum community might be good, because that's sort of a problem where the forum community feels somewhat segregated, because that's the people who post are generally people who've been playing for a long time. People who are starting out tend not to participate in the forum discussions, and so it feels,
especially because forum discussions are all very like, you know, we start talking about behavioralism or whatever, you know, and then it gets like very, you know, it gets very Byzantine, and people don't know what we're talking about because, you know, it's meaningless to talk about behavioralism, so they're intimidated, and it gets kind of a feedback loop a little bit, I think. I think it would help if I mean, there are a few things that would really help that thing. I mean, like Checker could make the forums a lot easier to get to. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people don't know forums exist, just because like they're not really, you know, hyped on the main web page that much. I mean, the game itself has a forum notification at the bottom in like small text, but they're not super easy to get to. I think a lot of players don't necessarily know there are forums.
Well, here's some numbers for you really quickly. There are 14,113 registered accounts on SpyParty. Some of those are going to be like, you know, joint accounts or dummy accounts, like test accounts that Checker set up. So the numbers aren't exact, but of those 14,000 or so accounts, only 614 of those players have posted one time or more in the forum.
Whoa, are you serious?
Yes, and there are pages and pages and pages of just people who have posted once. Probably, I couldn't get the game to work, can you please help me? Or, I really like this game, I'll play it more, you know, stuff like that. I mean, when you look at the players who have posted like more than 100 times, it it ends at 35.
Yikes.
35 players have posted more than 100 times in the forum. So I would say that those people are the more active members of the community. And by the way,
not all of them are still active.
104 is Sawchuck, who hasn't been active in forever.
Right.
So, yeah, the forums, and I've been saying it for a long time, the forums need to be more readily available. Like, I think when you first start the game, there's a button for the beta homepage, there's the Twitter page, there's the forum, you know, all that stuff. Yep. But as soon as you hit play, which is the first thing you do, all of that stuff vanishes. Now here you are, you're in the lobby looking for somebody to play with, and you don't have access to any of these buttons.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of it just pulls you out of the community when you can't click the community button from within the actual game.
User joined.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when the website redesign happened too, because I kind of figured that part of that would be, you know, the forums would be way more obvious, and they're not. I mean, you can still get to them from the main page, but it's still like, you know, 3 or 4 click process. And I don't know. I feel like the forum should be like a big in a game like this especially. There should be a big flashing button, like in the middle of the screen, like when you're in the lobby, you know, click here for forums.
Well, I totally agree.
Yeah, but maybe even have it be a button that just says community, like a big button that just says community on the page.
Yeah. Like there are games that do that, right? A lot of MOBAs have that. You know, just a big old community button in the game, and it's just a link to a bunch of resources, whether that be the forums, whether that be fan pages, which we have now. Warning Track runs SpyPartyFans.com. And things like that. And I feel like people aren't necessarily directed to those resources quite as strongly as maybe they could be. And
so maybe it's something that we, as people who play or publish stuff about the game, could point out to people. Say, hey, if you want to learn more or you're interested in participating, you can go to this forum. Although,
Yeah,
oh wait, no, you
definitely-
can't do that because you'd need an account to. Okay.
Right, yeah, you need to already have signed up for the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, Checker was talking about making it read-only for people who are outside of the game. I think that's a really great idea. I'm kind of sad that he hasn't implemented it yet, but honestly think at this point it's on the developer. I think Chris needs to make the forums more visible because all of the best information about the game, like how to get better, how to communicate with other players, like how to find matches, all of that stuff is in the forum, and players are almost discouraged from even going there because it's just never put in front of them.
And
Like,
even
why
subtle
would
stuff
you
like
why would you
how-
go there?
Yeah, and even subtle stuff like how to access the voice chat server, things like that.
Yeah, really small stuff. I mean, is that even a sticky right now on the it's not, right?
No, you have to go into I think it's like
In the how-to section
yeah,
or
how to
something.
section.
Yeah, it's not even a sticky at the top of the forum, so you immediately can't find it. You can find a thing, a PSA to new people about community and language. That's important, talking about how to act within the community to not be, not to discriminate, not to be a jerk. But there's no access to the community in the stickies. So they say be nice in the community, but you're still not in it yet. So yeah, it's really hard to get into the TeamSpeak. Nobody knows that channel unless they were invited personally. And the forums are impossible to find.
I think it's we get relied on a lot to do kind of that education of people in the ways of the SpyParty community, and here's the TeamSpeak address and so forth. Like it's down to the people who play the game frequently or stream it to say, yeah, if you want to play, here's the address. Here's some resources. If you want to look at this, tutoring works like this. Just ask anyone. And we end up saying a lot of these things.
And they're already snowed under with information about how to play the game, so they're probably not going to absorb much of that information.
I'm not sure that if putting everyone in the forum or like having really easy access to the forums would necessarily solve the problem of people cheating because they feel like they want to be an accepted member of the community. But I think it'd help. It certainly wouldn't hurt, right? I think probably the main problem with that is that people feel like there's the community, but then there's like the secret cool kids club, right? Which there isn't one. Yeah, there isn't one, but like people feel like there is. Like people like, unless, oh man, you have to have so many games and so many wins, and you have to have collected the scalps of these notable players to be taken seriously, and that's just not true. So I'm not sure that like having tons of forum access is going to fix that problem. But again, it certainly couldn't help, and more people being in the forums would maybe mean a more vibrant community, which might obviate that problem. I don't know.
Well, just having a more open community is better. I mean, it's hard for me to fully comment on community being an issue for cheating because I have kind of a differing opinion on that. I just can't accept that somebody would cheat to become a more valued member of the community. My assumption would be that they'd be inclined to cheat regardless, and they're using that as an excuse to validate what they're doing. That these people are going to say, I'm cheating to be a member of the community, but that they would have cheated regardless.
Okay, so it's like them rationalizing to themselves, like, oh, it wasn't really for a bad reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Warning Track had a great post about it. From another community that he was in, where people essentially did the same thing, and he said that afterwards they admitted that they were wrong, and many of them like reformed and became valued members of the community who provided great content without cheating. But I haven't seen that firsthand. So I come from, I guess I'm Warning Track before that happened, because my initial thought is just, this is unacceptable behavior, in my opinion, and I just can't see it being anything more than an excuse.
I suppose I would normally be inclined to agree with you, if not for the fact that these people turned themselves in with no, they were under no duress. Yeah, I would never have known, basically, if these people didn't just come to me and admit it. Like when I didn't keep the replays from. Oh, I think I still have them actually, but I never looked at the replays. But certainly while playing the games, I never thought this person's stream cheating. They felt like natural shots. So I guess I wouldn't know. So I guess they get a little bit of credit in my book that that they turned themselves in and presumably felt bad about cheating. Did they maybe have like a self-serving, convenient reason for it? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt if they're willing to come forward with it, I suppose. But then that's the criminal defense lawyer in me talking, probably.
The fear for me is that you've played 10,000 games of SpyParty with upwards of 500 players, I think, and
something like that.
Yeah, you've played a lot of SpyParty with a lot of different people, and how many of those people that cheated and didn't come forward? All of a sudden.
Yeah, that's a troubling question for sure.
There's this element
for
of
sure.
paranoia. Nobody's ever come forward and told me that they've cheated. I've played almost 1,300 different people, or not different people, but 1,300 matches. And yeah, I just immediately think about some of those losses that I had that was just, why couldn't I beat this person? Like, why couldn't I figure this out? And I don't want to immediately jump to the conclusion that they're cheating. Like, some of those players are just really good. Like, Canadian Bacon, I've had terrible runs against him in the past.
Yeah, Bacon could just stomp you just because he's really, really good. Yeah.
But if I just say, that one time I was streaming, is that a possibility? It is a possibility, and it's scary. Yeah. So, how do you, how do you accept some of that? How do you say, well, if one person is admitted to cheating, how many others have cheated without admitting? Yeah,
that's a good concern. I suppose it applies more to people who stream like a lot of their games. I would say since I've been at like 3,000 games or so, a majority of my games have been streamed. Like Drawn streams almost every game that he plays.
Actually, I think tonight is his anniversary, isn't it?
It is. He's gonna be playing Lodar.
He's not playing Checker for his anniversary. He spent the whole week playing Checker in his.
I think he's playing both of them.
Warm up with Checker before you play Wodar.
Yeah, weekly warm up.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely more of a concern for somebody who streams almost every night, which is what you do. Drawn streams every night, with the exception of Thursday. So you guys would be the biggest targets because your streams are the most well known, and it's more accessible to stream cheat against you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just easier because we're going to be streaming at like X time, whereas against some other opponent, they may or may not be.
Right.
I mean, this may be like a cruel thing to say, but like maybe for the reason that there aren't many idle players who, I mean, like I'm not entirely sure, but I'd assume not too many players would stream frequently, so maybe this isn't a concern that a lot of players learning have to worry about, because I assume that they wouldn't be streaming while they're learning to play.
Yeah, that's actually, but that's a good point though. It doesn't affect people in the lower to mid ranges of skill because they're not streaming quite as much.
Well, it does if you're like one of these. I mean, here's something to be fearful about with it. If you're someone who's well known or who has a big stream, you're going to be like a 0-0 who's streaming SpyParty, and that really sucks if you're being stream sniped against, I suppose. I mean, it's really hard being a 0-0, let alone when your opponent's stream sniping against you. So I think there are a few people, and there are going to be high profile people who could potentially have very little experience but still be streaming.
Yeah,
and I mean, this is kind of a weird thing to bring up, but there's also you'll encounter players, they don't need to cheat to beat you every single game, especially if you're 0-0. So you've never played before and you encounter KrazyCaley. KrazyCaley's going to beat you every single game because you've never played. And so having immediately heard of people cheating in SpyParty, let's say you're a 0-0 and you're streaming, do you just immediately accuse KrazyCaley of cheating against you?
That has happened to me. That has happened. Believe it or not. He was one of those guys that there's the kind of player who like signs on to SpyParty, gets like beat and then just like quits because like they don't like losing or whatever.
They bounce.
And I just shot him every single time. Like, and I don't like it when I have to shoot you in like the first like 15 seconds of the game over and over again. Like I suggested, like play against someone your own level. I'd be happy to tell you what you're doing wrong, and he just didn't say anything. All right, he just didn't say anything. He just kept playing over and over and over. Always a spy. He didn't want to snipe, and it was just like pathing error, hard tell, pathing error, stop dead. And I like tried to type out like, well, here's what I shot, and he's just like, effing cheater or something, and they just signed off, and I haven't seen that guy on since then. It's just like, well, I don't think there's anything. I don't think that guy was ever going to be like a hugely productive member of the SpyParty community. But yeah, people do think that apparently. Even if it's a certain kind of internet denizen who does.
I think that's a problem with having I don't want this to come off as like snobbish to people who don't play SpyParty, but I think that might just be a part of the fact that SpyParty is a subtle game, and the ways in which the techniques you're using to beat those people are things that they just don't understand in a beginner mindset.
There's just a ruthless learning curve to this game. And I think that's part of the problem with it as well. Is just you're just going to lose. I mean, you are going to lose a ton of games. I mean, even if you're a 0-0 playing against other 0-0s, someone can get ahead on figuring out what the game's about, and then just win game after game after game after game.
Well, like watching a high-level player's stream.
A 0-0 who's watched Drawn stream once is going to know way, way more than someone who's just completely fresh off the or fresh into the game.
There's also the nature of the game. It ends so suddenly without any information, especially as Spy. You just get shot and it's over. You don't see like a bunch of things happening, culminating, and you're losing. Whereas the opposite is something like League of Legends or Smite,
where slowly you're going to be obviously losing. Yeah.
Or Street Fighter, where you see your health bar getting hit down with each attack that misses that hits you, and so that's the SpyParty doesn't have that. You just lose. And I lose, suddenly without any expectation of it quite a bit. And I've played a million games, and I'm still sometimes surprised when I lose. So if you've never played, you're not used to games that do that. I don't think many games do that.
What have just very little overt sudden feedback about when you're doing something.
I think it's the feedback more than the suddenness. I mean, because there's dive kick, right, which is very sudden, but the feedback is there. You made the mistake and you instantly get punished. Sometimes in SpyParty, that you get that, right? And that's why when I'm playing a new person, if I see a terrible pathing error, I try to shoot them immediately, because that helps them. It helps to demonstrate. No, you can't just stop dead after doing a 360 or whatever. I'm going to shoot you for that literally every time immediately afterwards. So you kind of build in that response of oh, this is what's getting me shot. But I guess once you get to a certain level of play, that becomes totally absent. I mean, you still make those minor pathing errors, but if you lose a typical game to Veery or whatever, you're gonna have no idea what went. Hell, I lose games to Veery still, where I'm I have no idea what happened there.
He has no idea why. I'm
just I don't know. I'm looking at the replay. I'm I don't know how he shot me. He's that damn good, and he has great intuition.
It's the nature of the game where after a while, sometimes it becomes so abstract that there's no way to put it into a logical word exactly why you lost.
For sure.
There's not a format.
And as a new player, that's really frustrating. Because I used to mentor games and I would just not shoot for the first thing. The second I knew it was them, I wouldn't shoot and I'd watch and give hints. But those hints overload them and they don't understand they lost because of the first hint.
Right.
So I've kind of just started shooting them the second I know, because like you said, that reinforces it immediately. Oh, I made a mistake and I lost because of that mistake. Yeah. But the downside is, I guess it's better than what I did, because before, waiting, they think they still have a chance to win the whole game and they lost it in the first 10 seconds. So that's just wasting their time.
Exactly.
Even if it's giving them more information. But
plus, I think it's not demonstrating as strongly to them how bad, stopping dead off a pad is, because that's a really, really bad thing. And if you're going to fix one thing about your game, relative to here's some things about when or when not you should attempt a hard tell, it'd be better to learn not to stop off a pad, basically.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing that this game has in common. The problems that so many other games have, not just competitive games, but the first thing you need to learn to do in this game is move your character.
Yeah.
And that is the single most important thing. Before you know how to do missions or even understand the concept of the game, you need to know how to move your character. And that's the exact same thing other games have, but here it's you just lose the game the exact second you can't do it. Whereas in those games, they let you think that you know how to move your character until you realize that there's a nuance to it.
I think that's actually a good thing in this sense, though. That's something that I think is a problem in general with games and the inaccessibility they have to larger audiences, is that because that challenge that people have in learning how to move a character is surrounded by so much cruft around it, they sort of can go for a long while without realizing that they don't
That
understand that. So I,
yeah,
I,
that you're
I, I,
deficient in this
I think
one
it's a good
place.
thing that the first thing you need to do is learn how to move the character, and once you do that, you can move on.
Yeah, after you're done losing 30 games against
Once you've lost 30
Crazy
games,
Kaylee,
you're fine.
I don't
it
shoot you
is.
that much for pathing. That's more like an R7 thing.
Yeah.
Although I try from time to time, but yeah.
Well, it is like a motto of the game that you should lose your first 100 games as fast as you can. I think some players might take that out of context and just immediately like lose on purpose, but you're supposed to try to win and
Yeah,
incidentally
that's a Go
lose.
proverb too. Yeah, and I think it totally applies here. Like you just wanna lose as your first 100 games as quickly as possible. I mean, even if you do that by deliberately like announcing yourself to be the spy or whatever, you're still gonna learn a lot. But obviously, don't do that. Um, but it just yeah, I mean, I don't think this game is ever going to get to a place where you don't have to lose a lot to like become like mildly competent at it. I mean, it's just you could read everything, you could watch every streamer and understand a lot of concepts about it before playing, and you're still going to lose because when you're actually in there trying to WASD around and bounce off of people, I mean that just takes a lot of practice and knowing when you can let go of W and when your character is going to like stick onto a conversation circle or whatever. You know, that's a feel thing too that you just have to play. I mean, you can't just watch that. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's always going to be like that.
it's interesting that you can watch, five five or six or 100 hours of streaming, know everything about the game, and the most valuable information you'll get when you first start is those first 5 minutes in practice mode.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so
Um,
maybe oh sorry, Kcmmmmm, did you want to add something to
no,
that
go
point?
on, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, so it sounds like perhaps something that we can actively try and do is I'm not sure how we would do this in our language, but try to promote a culture of losing that making players feel like losing is an important part of playing the game, because that's something that's like a problem in like game cultures outside of video games and like sports where kids feel very much pressured to win all the time and
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean,
don't want to.
go ahead, Casey.
I don't feel comfortable with rewarding
well
losing.
I
Like the
don't
whole
mean
like.
reward, I mean making it
No,
feel
I know what you mean.
accepted.
At anything you do, if you're in a situation where there's a loser, there will be a winner. Whenever there's a winner, there is going to be a loser,
Hmm.
and it's because the ability to lose is possible that the ability to win is possible. So you have to respect your losses as much as your wins, right?
Right.
I, I mean, that's the only way
No,
I can really look at it and think
that
about it.
that sounds like a much better way to phrase it. That you need to respect both winning and losing. So maybe
Yeah, it's
that's the way we should phrase it to people.
it's really hard to accept losses sometimes.
Well, it's the ego. Like your ego does not want to lose, but I think that's important. I think it's just like an important life skill in general is to be able to step past the ego, and losing is a very important part of that.
I think part of the problem, and this is a theme that I'm always talking about, is that people come to Spy Party with the expectation that it's a video game. And video games are, by and large, things you can win right out the gate, right? I mean, even if you bought Modern Warfare 2 on the day it came out, um, or even like 2 weeks later when people were playing it, for those 2 weeks, you could still hop into a deathmatch or whatever and win a bunch. I mean, it's a first-person shooter. You know what's going on. You know the sticks move like this. You pull the trigger, the gun shoots, you kill people. Um, and Spy Party just isn't like that. You can't just come out of the gate in Spy Party and win games. I think it's more appropriate, and this is what I like impress upon people who are like frustrated with losing because they're new. Like this is not like just a video game that you can like buy for $15 and then play it for a week and then that's not how Spy Party is to be experienced. It's more like a chess. It's more like a Go where if you want to get good at this game, it's going to take a lot of work. It's super rewarding, it's going to change your brain and you're going to learn a bunch of stuff and improve a bunch of skills along the way. But it's like a real long journey to get good at Spy Party. I mean, even to win, to get to a point where you can regularly beat someone who's new, it's going to be a long journey. Um, and I think impressing that upon people certainly wouldn't hurt. I mean, hopefully it doesn't scare people off or like, oh, well, screw this. I don't want to like put hours and hours and hours into this game. But I think that's kind of the culture that that we have, and I think that's kind of what the game demands. So I try to tell people that. I try to tell people this is a game where you have to work at it like a skill, because that's what it is.
It's definitely a game that requires a lot of homework. I think that the lack of feedback also hurts progression, at least immediate progression, because let's say you're sitting down playing a fighting game with somebody, and the first match you play, they perfect you twice. You don't hit them once, right? The second match you play, you bring them down to 80% life. Well, that's progress. After the first match, you learned enough to where you can hit them 2 or 3 times, right? And then by the end of a 100 game set, you're still losing every single game, but at the very least, you're bringing them down to 50% life. So you've made progress and you've learned, right? But in SpyParty, if you're playing a 100 game set against KrazyCaley, you're brand new, you're a 0-0, you lose all 100 games. Excuse me. You lose all 100 games. You don't see any of that progress because every game ended with either you shooting the wrong person or you being shot, right?
Well, I think there is feedback, but the problem is you don't know how to read it when you're starting out.
Yes.
When you're playing a fighting game,
yeah.
you know what a health meter means. When you're playing
Exactly.
SpyParty, you don't know why being low-lighted is important.
All of these games, there's something hard-coded which tells you, you're doing better, you're doing better, you're doing better. And in SpyParty, there really isn't. It's hard for a player to look at something and say, getting against KrazyCaley, you're a 0-0 player, you swap, you survive, and then you do microfilm and you get shot. That is a better round against KrazyCaley than doing Banana Bread, Seduce, and Inspect, and then getting shot for the final mission, which is microfilm.
That's right.
So that feedback is really, really weird to read, especially against certain players and player habits. So, I had a player play against me once, and he picked known 5 or something, and I couldn't convince him otherwise, and he did 2 missions. I didn't need to watch 4 of those missions. I just had to watch 1, right?
But he sees 2 out of 5, therefore.
Yeah, he sees 2 or 3 out of 5, and then he messages me saying, "I didn't think I'd do so well." And I'm like, "Well, I gave that to you. That was free. I didn't care. All I was watching was bug. There's nothing else I had to do." And I can't really tell them, "Well, you didn't do better this time. You did worse this time than you did the previous games." Even though this time showed more progress on their missions. Or, they highlight me this game, that's more progress, even though they didn't shoot me this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels...
I think replay's still... Go ahead, sorry, Sharper.
I was going to say, it feels somewhat analogous to me. In martial arts, I did karate for a long time. There's this thing where you can learn a technique and practice it for a long time, but then someone might just point out to you that you're doing it wrong, and you have to go back and relearn the whole thing.
Yep.
And it's a frustrating process to do that, but it's important. And I think that's a problem for people when they start out, they've maybe played with a few people who weren't really mentoring them, and then they think they have the grasp of it, and then they go to play with someone who knows what they're doing, and they have to relearn everything, and that's frustrating.
I think that's incredibly common. That's a great point. I think that's incredibly common in SpyParty, because most people adapt their play and build their technique around playing other people with no experience. And this is beyond just stuff which happens whenever a famous person plays SpyParty. It turns into that Guess Who game that we all find so tedious.
Oh,
but even beyond that, it's not just oh, you were general again. It's stuff like, oh well, this person they guard swap in this particular way, or whatever, or they only watch walking bugs and things like that, and they only learn to beat that person or this very small group of people,
or just this one strategy.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's a good point. People definitely run into that problem here.
Yeah, there's also kind of this isn't, I wouldn't say a problem, but there's also this kind of personalities contradict sort of thing where I have trouble against a certain player. That player is easy for you to beat, but then you have trouble against me, kind of thing. So it's just this cyclical nature of SpyParty strategies and styles. And I don't know how that quite factors into it when people.
Yeah, what does that mean in who's good or who's improving or who's better? Well, that might not be the best way to analyze the problem, right?
Right, yeah.
I think one thing to give credit in terms of helping new players feel like they're a part of the community and like they're getting better. is even though they're hard to interpret, I think replays are huge.
Yeah, they've helped
I think that newer players have surprised me very much with how much they're able to get out of just analyzing their own replays. Nowadays, I can see like the Guess Who game like is dying down, and people like jump into the replay right away, and they figure out instead of like going for I shot you because you're orange dress, because that was like kind of what it was. After a game was over, all you were already in the next game picking your cast, and so that's apparently what was at the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, just immediately play again.
Yeah. And instead of that, people are diving in, and like I see people with like 100 games who are shooting for really really cool stuff. So I think that while we were ragging on Checker earlier for make the forums easier to get to, I think that replays have been a huge deal, especially the fact that it's so. That features are really replays are really feature rich. A thing that's been implemented in SpyParty. He did it really well, and it's been really helping, I think, in terms of accelerating the learning curve of new players.
And I think the live spectation that will eventually be implemented for those replays will help that even more. Like people will be able to sit in the lobby and watch good players play and think about why did they shoot this person? Like I don't, that might help with this problem we're talking about of literacy. That's sort of a problem for people starting out. Maybe.
Yeah.
Spectation will help with that. People will think about, I don't know, I can't understand why this person got shot for what they were doing. Let me look over this video and see why that was.
For sure, and I think that live casting will help too. Like, I mean, there was a bit to me and Tobo or just Tobo or Tobo and Track or whoever was casting the games, casting them after the fact. But when it's something that's happening right then with presumably some kind of stakes on the line, I think that especially if again there's like some link provided from within the game to hey there's this event going on and these people are live casting it or whatever, I think you can get a lot of people watching players who have a decent amount of experience with the game analyzing what's going on. I think that increases SpyParty literacy or whatever you want to call it pretty quickly too.
Well, before we get off the topic of watching replays, I actually had a new player. I don't remember. They're probably sub 100 games, and you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. They asked me. They said, "Hey, can we play a few games where you're Spy?" And they just said, "I know I'm going to lose every game, but I just want some high-level Spy replays so I can watch them and analyze how to play a Spy."
Well, that's really
cool.
cool.
I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, I told they knew to try to shoot me, and they failed each time, which I expected. But their request was just play your best, and hopefully at the end of it, I have something to look at. So I thought that was a really interesting idea. Like nobody had ever asked me that before, and I'm really surprised by it.
Yeah,
and,
no, that
I mean,
part of that sounds kind of obvious in hindsight.
Again, part of the problem is that high-level replays are not available to people who don't have access to the forums. Like this guy didn't have to lose 3 games to me, and I'm basically just hamming it up. I'm trying to play a high-level game, but I know that he's not at that level, so it doesn't matter. But it would have been more valuable for him to just grab a set of replays of me against Drawn, which is going to be all high-level spy play. We're all going to get shot every game anyway, but that would have been more valuable information for him.
Yeah.
But he didn't have access to that, so he made do with what he knew he could get, which was just local saved replays. So that's really interesting. And going back to the other topic that we were moving to, which is that like games like StarCraft, I think you log on and it just says like this event is going on right now. Click it to watch it, and you'll be in the game. You click this button, it takes you out of the game, and all of a sudden you're watching high-level streams of events. I think that's really fantastic. It's really big of the game to do that, to say, hey, we know that you want to play, but if you'd rather watch great players, this is where you should be instead.
And I think that's smart. And it's kind of far-seeing. And I'm impressed with how many, this is especially done right by games that are considered esports or that have huge communities and they have a big scene. Most MOBAs do this. StarCraft 2 does this. Fighting game communities, I don't know. I mean, like Street Fighter 4 has it doesn't do that to the best of my knowledge.
It's certainly not built into the game.
Right.
The community, obviously pushes their stuff, and the companies do, but it's not built in the game.
Yeah, I think there might also be a challenge with those sort of games that this is something that sort of excites me about SpyParty. I think the nature of the game itself makes it something that has greater potential for spectation in my mind than a fighting game. Because with a fighting game, it's moving so fast and there's so many things to pay attention to that it's hard to
Yeah, I
grasp.
don't know what the hell's going on during a game
Whereas
of Marvel.
a party is
Nobody
this like
does.
really nice middle pace where it's not
Yeah.
dead still. There's like a tempo, but it's not so fast that you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, when you can see both sides of a SpyParty match at once, it's exciting as hell. Like, and it's fascinating, and it's a great way to learn the game. Watching both sides of a SpyParty match at once is amazing because you learn so much about. Oh man, like you notice things that the players themselves like never notice about. Here's why this person got shot. And here's why, like, and even seemingly luck-based things, like, oh, I wasn't looking at such and such a time. You start to learn like trends in the play that lead to the quote-unquote luck existing, and how you can kind of create your own luck or minimize the chances that some kind of bad luck event is going to happen to you. You learn so much by watching both sides at once, I think. So I think that spectation is huge, and and if we can like somehow get a lot of people spectating SpyParty games, not even necessarily high-level games, but just any games or competitive games at any level, I think that would be big.
I like that this discussion started out as us talking about this like community challenge, and then weaned itself into advertising new features in the game.
Yeah.
Well, that's any discussion of SpyParty eventually degrades to that. There's so much potential for SpyParty, and it hasn't reached all of that potential yet. That we just want to see it do better. I think that's pretty common.
All right, cool. Well, I think that was a very good discussion of the topic. So, do you guys want to call it there before we hit the hour point?
I think that's probably
I'm
the
good
best
to go.
idea.
Yeah.
I gotta do
Great.
trick or treaters and stuff. So.
Yeah. Do either of you have any closing remarks or things you want to say about this issue of stream cheating?
Not really. I think I got it all out. I don't think it's a huge problem, but I just hope that it doesn't become like a really bad problem that has to be dealt with in some special way when the player population goes up.
And I guess I would just want to re-emphasize that some of the best players I know don't even have positive numbers in their win rates. And I know some players with very good win rates who I don't think are quite at the top levels. So I don't think winning is really as important as... I don't think it necessarily denotes skill in SpyParty.
Yeah. Yeah.
So...
Because you can do a bunch of games against like new players, etc., and you could have like a weird win rate for some reason.
You can pad out your wins against new players, or you could just spend so much time playing against people who you naturally counter that you're gonna look really good, but when you play somebody who counters you, you're gonna lose a lot of games because of it. That doesn't mean that you're bad, and it doesn't necessarily mean you're good. So just don't worry about whether you win or lose in SpyParty. Play it and have fun. And you can't have fun by cheating, I don't think.
And we're always here to support and teach new players and each other.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
I mean, I guess for anybody else who listens to this and thinks like, oh, hey, I've cheated, what should I do? All you should do is just stop. You don't have to admit that you cheated. You don't have to expose yourself as a fraud or anything like that. Just, acknowledge that you don't want to continue doing it and just stop. Play legit games from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, this is such a cliche truism, but really, in addition to your opponent, you are cheating yourself because you don't learn a damn thing, or at the very least, you learn very little when you cheat in SpyParty, especially as a sniper. As a sniper, you're just gonna, the learning ends as soon as you see your opponent's screen. I think so. It's certainly not going to make you a better player than relative to playing the games.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you both very much for taking part in this episode of the AfterParty.
Thank you, Sharp.
Thank you for having us. Happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween. All right. Take care, everybody.
Adios.